encourage, if you can kind of encourage your student to reach out to those teachers in April and May, that way it's not their first time hearing it when they come back in the fall. So the teacher can have that to kind of think about over the summer. Okay, this is what I want to write about that student, but they're prepared to do that in the fall. And then, of course, thinking about leadership opportunities that they can do in their extracurriculars or volunteer activities. So these are things either on BMHS's campus or things that they might do outside of school, but trying to really show that, I'm not just a member of something, I'm a leader, I'm integral to planning meetings, or just showing those leadership skills, really. Next, adding schools of interest to the following tab on SCORE. So I know a lot of you might not be too super familiar with SCORE, but hopefully you've at least heard of it. So SCORE is just this phenomenal platform that we use to send documents to colleges when they do start applying as seniors. But it's an awesome tool for students to be using now as juniors to research schools. It's great for exploration. So I know that some parents or some families rather will come up with like an Excel sheet, and they have a certain tab for this is the name of the school, and then they'll have a tab for the location, the price point, etc. SCORE just makes it really easy for you to research schools and to keep a compiled list. So we definitely encourage that. It's free also, so you should be registered, and we're happy to get you registered if you're not. Then with the SAT or ACT, again, April and May, we want you to be thinking about these things, registering for those, because maybe you want to take it and see how your student does over the summer with like a June or July date, because of course they can come back and retake it if necessary. Like Mr. Burrows said, there's not necessarily one better than the other. My little disclaimer about the ACT, right? Because there is a science section on the ACT. So if you have a student whose strengths are in science, definitely encourage you to take the ACT, because you'll get that opportunity to show how much you know in science, whereas the SAT doesn't have a science section. And then attending college representative sessions, virtually or in person. So we oftentimes will have college representatives come to our campus. SCORE is the platform that your student would sign up to say, I want to be invited to come and hear from the representative. Because they're juniors in their second semester, they're invited to start attending now. We'll have Rutgers coming in April, and hopefully some more schools will start to come around for this semester. It's a lot more schools that will be coming in the fall because it's college application season. So right now they're kind of in a different season, but we'll still have some coming. So just kind of keep an eye on SCORE to see what schools are of interest, and if they would go ahead and sign up, and we'll invite them down the day that the representative comes.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. So let's talk about summer. Before I get into these bullet points here, please ensure that your child is doing something over the summer, whether they're working or volunteering, being involved in some type of activity. This is the final chance to get their resume, get their application, get their full package complete for when they are going to be applying for college. So I love the junior year, and I love just this opportunity and this time that we have. So again, complete the humble brag sheet in SCORE. Of course, your students will be asking their teachers to write them letters of recommendation. They will automatically get letters of recommendation from their counselors, but this brag sheet helps the teachers and the counselors to be able to refer to some of their highlights, their highlight reel, if you will, and we can include some of those things in their recommendation letters. So the earlier this is done, the better. So that we can have a lot of robust information to include some information that we just might not have known about your child in their recommendation letter. So continue adding schools to their college list. So this is information that we will be telling your students as a whole in aggregate. We talk to them in person about these things as well. So this is the time to just build a large college list. And by the time they are seniors and are applying, the ideal list of colleges to apply to is about 6 to 8. Of course, we have students who apply to fewer, and we have students who may apply to 40, which we want you to get somewhere in the middle. Also in the summer, they will begin to work on their personal essay. This is also a time for your student to shine. The personal essay is something that we take very seriously, and we hope that they would not wait until the last minute to work on that. Next, begin searching and applying to scholarships. Now, many scholarships have deadlines that are into the student's senior year. So a good thing to do is just to prepare, look at the website, look at what a typical student who gets that scholarship looks like. And perhaps you may have some time over the summer to get some opportunities and to get some experiences that can help position you well for applying for those scholarships. Also, visit colleges in person or virtually. I think that it really gives you some brownie points when you are visiting colleges, especially colleges of interest, and you can write on your college application that you visited, and some highlights that you like. So when I'm saying you, I'm talking about your student, so that the student from their perspective can write about their experiences. And then also we have a college application workshop that we do each summer. It is optional, but it gives students time to work with us as their counselors over the summer, and we walk them through the application process. So we have a few dates. Last summer we had a few dates, and this summer we'll have a few dates as well. The college application, or the Common App, opens applications on August 1st. So students cannot apply to college before August 1st, but we can definitely walk them through what it looks like. And some of our, one of our workshops will be around August anyway, so they'll be able to actually submit an application. So earlier, Ms. Howard talked about SCORE. Okay, so we want SCORE to be a term that is a household name. So students should be on SCORE, and parents can be on SCORE, but it is mandatory for students to be on SCORE because that is how they can research colleges, compare colleges, they can take virtual college tours, they can build their resume and brag sheet, and we also send documents to colleges through SCORE. So you'll learn more about this, and your student will learn more about this. It'll make more sense when they are a senior. But as far as building their college list, they can put their college list in SCORE as far as following. And when they are a senior and when they are applying, when colleges are in the applied column, that's how we send documents to the colleges. Also, when colleges visit, students get notified. But students are only notified on SCORE if a student is following that particular college. However, we do send information out through the Sunday updates, and we'll let the whole school community know when certain colleges will be visiting. So parents have a profile as well in SCORE. You can't see as much as your child can see, but you can see what colleges they are following. And there are a few other data points as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So next thing we're going to talk about is Loper. Loper is a app students can use on their phone. We recently connected with the person who created the app just to kind of test it out. Most students who have tried it enjoyed it. It is a free phone app that helps to discover the college and university that fit them best. So similar to SCORE, except that it's a little more interactive. In that sense, a student will set up their profile, they put their basic information in it, GPA, grade level, things like that, and then what schools they want in terms of like what area, whether it's like Southeast, Northeast, Midwest, things like that. And then they swipe for interest. So the example here you see is freshman housing and then studying architecture. So freshman housing was to come up, they can swipe up, meaning it's essential, like that's really important to me. They can swipe right, to mean I agree with that, down meaning I'm against it, or left meaning I don't really care too much about it. And they'll continue to go through a couple of those, like 10 or 15 of those questions. They'll swipe. And as they swipe, the platform begins to match with different schools that match their categories, their preferences. But what it does, which I really like, is that once it shows you the school, it doesn't tell you what the name of the school is. Because a lot of students and families get tied into the name of the school versus like what the school offers. So they'll show you like this school is located in like Chicago. This is why you match with the school. Here, basic information. Once you save it, then it reveals the name of the school. That way you're not tied to like, I want to go here because this certain name. Then from there, the students will be able to have a list on there, just based on their preferences that they can carry over to score. And then they can also add us as their counselor so that we can see what they do and what their preferences are. So when we have those one-on-one meetings with the students, we can start talking about that and trying to help them find the best fit schools for them.
Hello again. So I talked a little bit about the college rep visits earlier on, but this will give you more of a clear understanding of how exactly it works. So if a student, let's say, is interested in hearing from Yale or Davidson, they would go onto their score. And then if you can kind of look where it says registered, it's like a little emoji of a person, it looks like, not exactly a stick figure, but they can click to register, and that will trigger for us to create a pass for them, right? So if I want to see Yale, I know that they're coming on October 5th, and they're coming at 1:30. I want to pick up my pass for that college visit that morning of. So before the bell rings, your student will come, get their pass, and be remembering that I have this Yale visit later on today. So we ask that your students come to the sessions, that they're attentive when they get there, meaning they're not on phones, they're not horse playing or giggling with a friend while we have a college representative here to present to them. Reason being, not only would they miss the information, but these same people who are coming, who are traveling a lot of times to be here with us are the same exact people who will be reading applications. So if they have a great experience here at Bishop McNamara, then that's kind of what's in their mind when they're reading over applications. And we always want to put your students in the best light, and we just want to remind them to do the same. We like them to be asking questions. It doesn't mean that, maybe you haven't done your research or anything, but just thoughtful questions like, for instance, what is your favorite part about the campus? That might be something they ask to the representative. Potentially, how far is it from, I don't know, certain major cities, things like that. A lot of times students will ask about, can freshmen have cars on campus? That's been their favorite question this year. And then another tip, right, is to stay behind, right? When the college rep is finished, and they've taken questions from the audience and they're packing up, it's always a good idea for students to come, kind of tap them on the shoulder, hey, introduce yourself, shake their hand. That way they can kind of pair your face, right, with your name, and they know, I'll be reading these applications, I don't know, in a month from now, and the student can stand out that way. And on a somewhat unrelated note, so we'll get into SAT and ACT. Of course, we know with the pandemic and everything, a lot of schools have opted to be test optional, but not all schools. Additionally, some schools that are test optional for admissions, right, meaning to get in, you don't have to take a SAT or ACT and submit your scores. However, a lot of schools do require you to take the SAT or ACT to qualify for certain scholarships. So if your student does take it, let's say over the summer, here are some test dates for this summer, May 6th, June 3rd, and then there's one this spring. So with the SAT and the ACT, so SAT is on the left, that lighter blue, and ACT is on the right. Both of them have registration deadlines a few weeks prior to the test. But if you were to miss that deadline, they both offer late registration, which means another fee is incurred, but you can still get a seat to take that test. So yeah, I'm just trying to, do I want to talk about anything else on here? I'll just reiterate the piece about the ACT and the SAT kind of different. So the ACT has more sections. It does have that science section once again. If your student does have that strength in science, potentially you want to look into the ACT. I was a student who took both, and you can of course retake them. And most schools, actually I don't know of schools who don't, but they'll super score. So let's say if you take the SAT that March date, and then you take the SAT again in June or maybe later in the year, they take your highest portions and make that your super score. So potentially you could be getting a higher score than the first time alone or the second time alone. And the same with the ACT.
Keeping up with the theme for SAT prep. I know you guys mentioned earlier about SAT prep dates. So again, we already had 2 cohorts in the fall. We have 2 more prep for the May 6th SAT and then prep for the June 3rd SAT. And those are the dates below. So we will have 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll be about 6, 7 different classes. There'll be 7 classes for each one. So we'll meet on Tuesdays. The cohort 3, April 11th, because of spring break, that one will be virtual or recorded. Important details, we will send out more information to sign up late February, early March. We'll send a mass email out to students and parents. If your student already did the cohort 1 or 2, they cannot do another one. There's only one cohort that you can do. We're trying to just present the opportunity for all students. Students can only attend one cohort, like I mentioned before. There's a $50 enrollment fee, which we will send information about payment after the 25 students sign up. So it is first come, first serve. And again, students who have not completed cohort 1 or 2.
Sorry about that. I should have unmuted myself. Anyway, we are going to now transition into talking about course registration. So just wanted to give you all a brief timeline. So the counselors will be going into the junior classrooms next week, starting February the 6th. Counselors are going to go into the classrooms and let students know about their course registration this upcoming year. If your student if this is their, more than their first year here, they have gone through this process last year. And so they will know what courses are going to be available for next year in the course bulletin. And they will be able to look at their transcript and be able to pick what classes they are interested in. Teachers will recommend placement for certain classes, and they have about 2 weeks to do that, which is February 13th through the 24th. Moving forward, that next week, starting February 27th, that's when students can actually register for classes in MACSS. So going back to the first week that we're going into the classes, students will see what's available, but they actually cannot go in and pick courses until the week of February 27th. So they have about 2 weeks or so to discuss their options with your parents, teachers, counselors, etc., to make that list of requests. March 15th through the 30th, counselors will meet with students individually and go over their course requests just to make sure that they have registered for classes that they need to graduate. This is something that will be done right outside of their class, right outside of social studies classes. Counselors will have tables set up and we'll just meet with students one-on-one for no more than 2 or 3 minutes, just to make sure we get through everyone individually during that class time. So we will have about 2 weeks to do that. And then May 19th is the day that we want to be able to review the list of classes. This is a tentative time. where we want to be able to have all the courses in, because we are moving it up this year. We are hoping to avoid all the summer changing classes and courses. It can be anxiety provoking for everyone involved. So if we can just move this up a little further so that we're not doing a lot of that over the summer, that'll be awesome. And that is our goal. Of course, we are always here for any questions. I will be here working over the summer. Mr. Burrows will be in as well periodically. So we will make sure that schedules are good and complete for the fall. Briefly, let's talk about graduation requirements. Just a reiteration, this is the case with many schools. Of course, 4 years of English is required, 4 years of mathematics, 4 years of social studies, and 4 years of theology. If a student is a transfer student and for their first year they didn't have theology, that is totally fine. They don't need to take theology if they transferred into Bishop McNamara. 3 years of science, 2 years of modern and classical languages, which would be the same language. So if it's Spanish 1, then a student needs Spanish 2. They can't take Spanish 1 and French 1. That does not count for a graduation requirement. It must be 2 consecutive years of the same language. 1.5 credits of health and PE. So that's 0.5 credit of health and 1 whole credit of PE. Our PE courses are half credits. 1 credit of fine art, 1 credit of technology and engineering, half credit of gateway seminar. This is similar to theology, whereas if a student was not here in the 9th grade, they were at another school, they do not need gateway seminar to graduate because it's only a 9th grade class. And then 2 additional electives, which gets us to a total of 27 credits needed to graduate. So here are some upcoming events. We will have the president of Holy Cross College coming to visit our students. I am sorry, I will put the date on it in the email that we will send out for these slides. Also, March 8th is the Jesuit Excellence College Fair. So this is a college fair that happens nationally. That day they will be in the DMV area, and they will come to our school, and it's just for juniors. They will set up in the gym, and they're going to be here for about an hour, and juniors will be dismissed to be able to go to the college fair, and it's only Jesuit colleges in the United States. Late April, we are planning an HBCU mini college fair. There will be more information about that. That college fair will be here at Bishop McNamara, and it will happen during lunches. And then also we send out information about an HBCU college tour. It's through a company called Arrow Collegiate Tours. They are not affiliated with Bishop McNamara, but we do trust them as a company that has been doing this for decades. And we will attach the flyer again in the next email. Again, if you would like to contact us, please see our information here. We would like to follow up, or if you would like to follow up with us, you can send us an email or give us a phone call, and we would love to talk to you and your child. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat and we will be sure to answer them. I will now turn it over to Miss Mallory Mazzarella from St. Edward's University.
Wonderful. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Do you mind if I take yours off to do that? Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I'm excited to speak with everybody today. Again, my name is Mallory Mazzarella. I am the Director of Freshman Admission at St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas. So I'm going to share with you some basic information about St. Edward's, as well as a little bit of information on some of the other Holy Cross colleges that are out there nationwide. But of course, I'm only the expert on my campus. So before we get into some information about St. Edward's specifically, if I can get my slides to advance. See, there we go. So I wanted to just share with you this list of all of the Holy Cross colleges and universities in the United States. So you can see that we're one of them, but there are several different options. And one thing that I'll mention about this is just you'll notice some commonalities. I think if you listen to a presentation or speak with a college representative from any of these universities in terms of philosophy toward, working with students, supporting students as whole people, some of the things that will sound familiar to you from your experience with Bishop McNamara. But there's also a lot of differences in the type of environment these campuses offer, the culture on campus, the size of the universities, and any scholarship opportunities that they may offer for graduates of Holy Cross high schools. So the scholarship information that I'll share today is specific to St. Edward's. And as far as I know, ours are some of the more robust programs that are offered from any of these colleges, but please do reach out to any other colleges on this list if this is something that you think you or your student might be interested in. And really quick, before I keep going, I also just want to underscore how valuable all of the information that was just shared with you is from your college counseling team. I've been working with St. Edward's this is year 7 for me. I've done a lot of college visits. I've, done a lot of these types of presentations, and please, appreciate the resource that you have here in terms of your college counseling team, because they're sharing really, really good advice with you. And I didn't hear anything that they mentioned that I wouldn't wholeheartedly agree with. So you and your students are in really good hands as you're going through this process that can be difficult. So to give you some basic information about St. Edward's, we are on the smaller side as a university, so we're just under 3,000 undergraduate students total. We are Division II for athletics, so we do offer athletic scholarships as well. And we have students coming from all over the US and all over the world to enroll at St. Edward's. We tend to enroll at least one student from McNamara most years. Some years we've had several, but we have a really long history of enrolling students from your campus as well. And then, of course, we are a Catholic university, but we also have a really wide variety of different faith traditions among our students. And especially as I share some of these special scholarship opportunities, your student does not have to be Catholic to qualify for these scholarship opportunities. It's something that, we're looking for students who understand Holy Cross values, have been, contributors to their communities, but that doesn't necessarily have to be something that connects to their personal faith, although oftentimes it is. So to talk to you briefly about Austin, Texas, where we're located, we have been, named one of the best college cities in the US, and we're also a city that has a lot of opportunities for students in terms of internships, jobs after they graduate, graduate school opportunities. It's also just a really fun place to be a student. There's a lot to do, lots of live music, lots of beautiful outdoor space. So I won't spend too much time on that, but just know that if you haven't been to Austin before, or if your student hasn't been to Austin before, we'd love to have you for a visit. And it's a big part of what I think helps make our student experience special and gives our students something to enjoy. So I won't spend too much time on the details here, but I know sometimes there's some anxiety from parents about sending students out of state. Know that we require students to live on campus for their first 2 years. So your student is always, in an environment where they have a lot of support, a lot of connection with others on campus. And we have lots of different types of residence halls and opportunities for students to choose the community that they're a part of during those first 2 years on campus. If you do come for a campus visit, you'll get to see some of these spaces. But just know that, if your student chooses to go further from home, they will be in really good hands and welcomed on campus and have a lot of support as they're making that transition to college. And so I want to highlight very briefly some of the academic programs that we offer as well. This is not a full list of all of our majors and minors. It's just a highlight of a few programs. But one thing that I think surprises students sometimes when you think about a liberal arts university is the wide variety of different programs that exist and how many of those might be in science and technology or the social sciences. There's great opportunities for research or students who are interested in the medical field as well. And we're also adding a nursing major beginning in we'll start officially enrolling students in that in fall 2024, but students who are applying currently would have the opportunity to be rolled into that program once it opens, if that's something that's interesting to them as well. So just know that regardless of the program that your student might be interested in, there's probably an opportunity for them on our campus, and to not necessarily rule out liberal arts universities if you are thinking about STEM or science or things that maybe you don't think of as the traditional liberal arts majors. The final thing that I'll say about all of this really connects to who we are as a Holy Cross University too. We want all of our students to be well-rounded. So no matter what you're majoring in, you're going to get a solid academic foundation that includes lots of different types of subject areas, strong writing skills, strong presentation skills, and the ability to collaborate with others and support their peers and work together in an environment that is not academically competitive, but academically rigorous. But it's more of, everybody wants everybody else to succeed. Everyone's supporting each other, and your faculty are really supporting you too. And you have the opportunity to build really great connections with those faculty members as mentors on our campus in those small classroom environments. So it offers students a great opportunity to really be mentored by someone who's an expert in their field. And then to speak a little bit more about that, who we are as an institution, and something that's really core to the St. Edward's experience, is getting students thinking beyond just their experience in high school or their experience in college or the type of job or internship or graduate school that they want to go into after they graduate. We want students to be thinking about the issues that are important to them, the values that are important to them, and to use their time in college to develop that for themselves. So as I mentioned before, we are a Catholic university. We are part of the Congregation of Holy Cross. We see our role as a university in serving and supporting a really diverse student body in developing that sense of self, that sense of their ideals, that sense of their values, whatever that looks like for them on our campus. But we particularly want students to be thinking about ways that they can make a difference or give back or support people who need it. So we have a lot of opportunities for students to get involved in community service. It's not something that is required. All of this is student-led and student-initiated, but that includes things in the Austin area, all over the US, and even outside of the US. And we really want to make sure that throughout your students' experience on our campus, they're not just growing as, a psychology major or an English major or a history major. They're growing as a person and a young adult, and deciding what kind of life they want to lead after they leave our campus. And so we want to support students personally, professionally, academically, in terms of community, in terms of connection. And I think this is something that we do really, really well, and really sets us apart from other universities. And so that community is why I've been here for so long. It's why I think we've enrolled a lot of students from McNamara, and we've had a lot of students from McNamara become really excellent leaders on our campus too. And so, beyond that, there's tons and tons of different student organizations to be involved with. I mentioned before that we have a really diverse student body. So we have lots of student-led organizations for different faith traditions, different racial and ethnic backgrounds on campus. We have a wonderful Office of Student Diversity and Inclusion that works with kind of managing all of those different student organizations and making sure everyone has the resources that they need. We have great opportunities for students to get involved with club sports and campus recreation. Austin has great weather most of the year, so it's really nice to be outside. It looks like this most of the time. And then we have some special, campus traditions and events that really bring the whole community together too, like our homecoming celebration, and the legacy walk that we kick off the year with, and also kind of finalize students' graduation with, which is a special tradition to many of our students. So I want to briefly switch gears and talk a little bit about some special opportunities that St. Edward's offers for students who are graduating from a Holy Cross high school. There's a lot of text on this slide. Know that this information is also available on our website, so you don't need to memorize this. But there are two special scholarships that are only for students who are admitted from a Holy Cross high school. The Soren Award is the first one. It is a $10,000 per year merit scholarship. It's renewable for 4 years. that stacks on top of any other merit scholarship that the student qualifies for, other than the Moreau Scholarship, which I'll talk about in a second. But this is basically automatic. So if your student is admitted to St. Edward's, they will get this scholarship. It may stack on top of an additional merit scholarship if that's something that's offered to them. But this is really part of our commitment to making sure that students from all over the US who attend a Holy Cross High School have the opportunity to enroll at St. Edward's. We really want to help support your student in doing that, because we found that our Holy Cross High School graduates are often leaders in our student organizations. They bring a lot to our campus community, and they get what we're about typically. And so we really want to encourage you and your students to take advantage of this. And then the Moreau Scholarship is a scholarship that requires a separate application. So this is an additional selective process that your students can choose to go through after they're admitted to the university. But it's a full tuition scholarship essentially for 4 years. It is technically full tuition for the first year, and then that same dollar amount for subsequent years. So if there's a small increase in tuition, there can be a small gap, but it's the most generous scholarship we offer, hands down. It's awarded to one applicant from each Holy Cross High School each year. So if your student chooses to apply for this, they are being considered among other students from their high school who have chosen to apply for this. This is an incredible opportunity. You will not find another opportunity for your student to apply for a full tuition scholarship with that kind of direct engagement with us and kind of small pool that they're being considered within. We do expect that students who are awarded this scholarship are strong leaders on their campus, have a strong history of community service and leadership, as well as strong academic achievement. So there's a high bar here. But it's a great opportunity for students, especially if your student has really thrived at McNamara, or if they just have a really clear sense of what they're looking for in college and are eager to get involved and be leaders on campus. This is a great opportunity. And this is something that they would apply for typically around the end of their fall semester. The deadline's December 15th. So after they've applied for admission, they can apply for this scholarship as well. And then I won't get too much into this, but this is just to give you some insight into what we're looking for in this application process. We ask students to submit their application, a recommendation letter, and an essay about how they've connected to the Holy Cross values and which one's most important to them. So again, this doesn't necessarily have to be something that a student needs to be Catholic to answer. It's about the values of their community, which transcend faith, but may connect to their faith if that's something that's important to your student. But we really, really love getting to know students through this process. And always getting to welcome students to campus. I actually was just on your campus a week ago and got to congratulate the winner from this year's senior class of the Moreau Scholarship, who of course we really hope will choose to enroll. So just know that this is an option for your student and something to be thinking about as they're heading into their college search. And then, of course, for more generally just applying to St. Edward's, you can use the common application. You can use the application on our website. You can use Apply Texas if you really want to, but almost no one from out of state does. And we would encourage you to apply sometime during the fall semester. There is an early deadline at which you can get early consideration and have the application fee waived. I do want to briefly address test optional, because I know there were a lot of questions about that from all of you. But just know that for us, we are really, really, truly test optional. There's no trick to it. You'll be fully considered for all of our admission, merit scholarships, honors program, everything on our campus with or without that test score. If you choose to submit it, it's one additional piece of information that we have about your student. If you don't choose to submit it, we're not going to read anything into that decision. We won't assume that it was a weak score or consider your student less strongly for certain things. We are really looking at your whole application, trends in grades over time, leadership involvement, how your student everything is considered. And this is just one more variable that you can choose to include or not. So that will be different on every campus. But we've really found that it's not the strongest predictor of student success on campus. It's a snapshot of one day and how they performed. And we find that there's more value for us in the longer term pieces of your application. And then I mentioned academic merit scholarships. So your student, when they apply, will be automatically considered for academic scholarships that range currently from $16,000 per year all the way up to $28,000 per year. And that's before the Sorin Award. So you would be stacking the Sorin Award on top of that. So for our full student body, the average scholarship and aid last year was about $37,000. But for your students, you can kind of add another $10,000 on top of that in some cases. And then we strongly encourage you to apply for need-based financial aid as well. Most students do that using the FAFSA. We do have the opportunity for students to apply using paper FAFSA or some other alternatives for students who are not eligible to file the FAFSA typically. So all students can be considered for need-based financial aid, and we really want to work with you to make this an affordable option if this is where your student is going to thrive and this is their first choice. So please feel free to connect with us if you have questions about any of that. So I want to make sure that I leave some time for questions and to address anything that's come in through the chat. So first of all, I'll highlight my contact information is on this slide. Please feel free to send me an email if you have additional questions. Your college counseling staff can also share my contact info with you. But as they mentioned, I am the representative who works directly with your students. I work with all students from the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. I also am the first person to read your students' application when they apply. I'm also part of the Morose committee selection process. So please feel free to put your student directly in touch with me too if they have questions about anything. So yes, I see there are some questions about tuition and room and board. Let me go grab those direct numbers for you from our website. I'll grab the link and put it in the answer so that everyone can go and look at that on their own time if they would like to. And here, I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment to make sure that I can navigate a way to go do that. All right, so let me just pull that information for you. And of course, tuition and fees do change a little bit year to year. So if your student is a junior currently, they'll want to check back when they start the application process to see if there's any updates. But I'll just put this in the answer here to those who have asked. And then you can feel free to take a look at that. All right, any other questions for me? I see there's a question about college visits in the evening or the weekend. I think that may be aimed more at the counseling staff. We do offer some evening tours and some weekend programs, but I don't know that question was directed at me.
As far as us in the counseling center, no, we haven't had any college visits in the evening or on the weekend recently. But I am open to some suggestions. Well, I guess if there are no other questions, thank you so much, Ms. Mazzarella, for coming. Thank you, parents and guardians. Thank you, Mr. Burrows and Ms. Howard. So we will again send this to you via email, and we look forward to being in touch. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone.